Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Samantha Leanne and I talk about books. Today is Friday, March 17th. It's St. Patrick's Day and I'm not wearing green, whatever. And that means that it is time for Friday reads. So let's just go ahead and jump right into things. So we're gonna start off with what I finished this last week. So the first thing I finished was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. 5 stars, loved this book. I am still thinking about this book. There were so many things that were done well. Brief synopsis, clearly by the title, it takes place in space in the future. There are multiple alien species and there's just so many things that I loved about it. And like I said, I've been feeling like complete trash, so I don't really have like my thoughts together like I usually do, but just know that this book is excellent. I am considering doing a full spoiler-free review on this book alone because I loved it so much, but I highly recommend it. So that was the first book that I finished. The second book that I finished was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This was a read-along with Krista from Books and Jams. There is a Goodreads group, and I will link her channel and the Goodreads group down below. What I really liked about this is that it was kind of a read at your own pace. So over the weekend, whenever I really started feeling like trash, I actually ended up blowing through the rest of this book because I really loved it. This was another 5-star read for me. It was excellent. The writing, the atmosphere, the world building, the premise, everything I loved about this book. So, and even the characters. So if you haven't read that, I highly encourage you to read it. Okay, so on I think the same day that I finished Station 11, I actually I started and finished Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. I was laying in bed. I could not sleep. I don't know what my problem was. And I was like, okay, well, let me just find something, like really quick. And I was only planning on reading like maybe half of it. And then I finished the whole thing. And next thing that I knew, it was like 2:30 in the morning and I was miserable the next day, but that's neither here nor there. This was a nostalgia read for me, but I really liked this book. It takes place in Denmark, if I'm remembering correctly, during the Nazi occupation and follows a young girl and her family who have Jewish neighbors. And the takeaway from that book is even though you're scared, you can do great things. Anyway, it's a really good read. It's a really short read, so I definitely recommend it. The next book that I finished was Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. This book follows Juliet. She is a Puerto Rican American from the Bronx. She comes out to her family as being a lesbian and then immediately jets across the country to do an internship with a well-known author and feminist, Harlow Brisbane, I think is the name of the character. And we follow Juliet through her internship as she really discovers herself, she really discovers her roots, she really learns what being a feminist means. And I really needed to read this book, and let me explain why. This book is written in a very clear voice. It feels like just natural thought progressions, but it's not done in a way that's like tropey, if that makes any sense. Like, it's not stereotypical in any way. But it was important for me as a white girl because there were things that were touched upon about being a good ally, because one of the central points of this book is that, Juliet is Puerto Rican and the woman that she's working with is a white woman. Harlow is a very well-known feminist, but in a sense, her feminism can be less than intersectional. They really discuss that at length at some points in the book, which I really appreciated. Reading this book really kind of taught me how to be a good ally in a way, because I consider myself a feminist. I consider myself someone who recognizes that feminism is intersectional and that feminism means different things to different people. However, this book made me think about that in a different way, which I really appreciated. So I ended up coming away from this book learning a lot and seeing things very differently in a way. So for that reason, I highly recommend it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I really liked it. And by the way, I listened to it on audio. So the next book that I finished was Uncaged Wildflower by Janae Cecilia. I hope that I'm saying that name right. This was just a poetry collection that I ended up getting off of Kindle for free. I had seen it like on Twitter or something like that, so I was like, oh hey, let me download that. And poetry's been something that I've been wanting to explore a little bit more lately. However, I did not enjoy this collection. I ended up giving this collection 2 stars. There were things about it that didn't make sense to me. It didn't feel like poetry, and I don't like bite my head off for saying that, but just I don't know, it's really difficult to explain. I didn't personally connect with it in any way. I am in no way saying that you shouldn't pick this poetry collection up, because it may resonate with you in a way that it didn't with me, but it was not for me. And the last book that I finished this week, I actually just finished this book yesterday, was The Circle by Dave Eggers. You may be aware that this is a book that has been made into a movie starring Emma Watson and Tom Hanks. And I saw the trailer whenever we went to go see Logan. And I was like, oh wow, this looks really interesting. And I had seen it on BookTube, people talking about it and talking about that it was made into a movie. And I was like, okay, I really want to read that. I marked it as to read on Goodreads, and one of my coworkers tweeted at me and she's like, I'm reading this right now. I need you to read it so we can talk about it. Okay, let's do that. This book was trash. It was trash. I'm sorry if you read it and you liked it. I am sorry, but I thought this book was trash for a lot of different reasons. A lot of different reasons, okay? I could probably talk about why this book was trash for like 5 whole minutes, but I'm not gonna do that. The central idea was very like 1984. It was very Orwellian, and so I really liked the idea of the original concept. However, the execution was piss poor. None of the characters were likable. There was zero development between any of the characters. The dialogue between the characters was terrible. It was awkward. It was robotic in a way that I don't think it was meant to come across that way. Everything about this book was terrible. And then the ending, it was like, what the fuck did I just read? I gave this book 1 star. Do you know how many books I have given 1 star? 1. This book. This book, I always usually give at least 2 stars to books. No, I gave this book 1 star. I hated it. I am sorry, once again, if you like it. You are 100% entitled to that opinion. I'm not going to argue with anybody that liked it, but this book was terrible to me. I'm going to stop talking about this book now. Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on to the books I'm reading right now. Currently, I am listening to A Closed and Common Orbit, also by Becky Chambers. This is Wayfarer's number 2 in this series. However, it is a standalone, so you don't necessarily have to read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet before you read this one. However, it's kind of a spin-off of 2 of the characters from that book. So if you have read it before, it'll make a lot more sense, but you don't necessarily have to. I'm only about 30% of the way through this right now. I am listening to this on audio, like I said, and I'm really enjoying it so far, learning more about these side characters. And the book that I am physically reading in conjunction to listening to an audiobook is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a book that was really, really highly anticipated. I have seen amazing things about it all over the internet, all over book Twitter, all over BookTube. And this is a book that I feel like is going to be really important. It is also a book that I feel like is going to be really important to me. If you are unaware of the plot synopsis, this is about a 16-year-old girl named Star who was a witness to her best childhood friend being gunned down by a police officer even though he was unarmed. And kind of the fallout of that situation, what happened in her community, and kind of how she deals with this. For those of you that don't know, I am an LEO wife, so I see things from a dual perspective. It has made some of the conversations surrounding certain happenings very difficult for me because I tend to be lumped in with this group of people that I don't necessarily identify with, that my husband doesn't necessarily identify with. Luckily, my husband is not a road patrol officer. He has no desire to be. He works in another branch, which I am forever, forever grateful for. But I feel like this is going to be really important for me in understanding, a different side of it. I'm only about 50 pages in, and the first 50 pages were extremely powerful. I already know that this is a book that I am going to absolutely love. So I'm really excited to read more of this. Like I said, I haven't really been able to sit down and do a lot of reading just because I've been coming home from work and passing the hell out. But I really hope to get a good chunk of this book done this weekend. So hopefully I'll finish it by my next Friday reads. So that is all I have for you guys today. That video is a little bit more long-winded than I would have liked to. I like to keep Friday reads pretty short, but since I finished so much last week, it kind of ran a little bit longer than I thought, so thank you guys for sticking around. If you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you click the button that says subscribe, and be sure to give this video a big thumbs up as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.